Today in PA is brought to you by Renewal by Anderson of Central Pennsylvania. Buy one window or door and get another at 40% off and $250 off your project too. That's at zero money down, zero payments, and zero interest for a year. Spooky good. Drop by renewalbyanderson.com for additional details. Offer ends at the end of the month. Today's sources include Penn State University, Supernatural Lore of Pennsylvania, Ghosts, Monsters, and Miracles by Thomas White, The Pennsylvania Wilds, Hunting the American Werewolf, Beast Men in Wisconsin and Beyond by Linda S. Godfrey, and Monsters of Pennsylvania, Mysterious Creatures in the Keystone State by Patty A. Wilson. The man was older than May. He would just stare at her, watching her from afar. It wasn't too long before people who caught wind of him began to believe he was a werewolf. I'm Claudia Dimuro, bringing you the story of the Northumberland County werewolf during this special episode of Paranormal Pa. Pennsylvania is a place full of strange creatures not formally recognized by the State Game Commission. There's the squonk, a thing so ugly it does nothing but cry. There's also the gewoggle, which is some sort of bird, wolf, horse hybrid created by witches. And let's not forget about good old Raystown Ray. But a girl in Northumberland County in the 19th century had an encounter with an arguably more terrifying and certainly more widely known kind of cryptid. A werewolf. By many accounts, May Paul was your average farm girl wandering the fields of Schwaben Valley looking after her flock of sheep. She probably would have stayed that way too, if it hadn't been for the dark man she noticed staring at her one day. Some versions of the story say how the man was a known hermit in the area. Others say he was a total stranger. There's even another very similar story where the girl in question is named Elizabeth Paul and the man becomes her lover, although whether these two tales are one and the same can't be confirmed. Whatever the case, the common thread in all the stories is this. The man was older than May, and he would just sit and watch her. Perhaps the two did eventually strike up a sort of friendship, but either way, people in the area who caught wind of the stranger watching May found it a little bit weird, to say the least.
Did you hear about that man?
On top of that, the area was struggling with a wolf problem at the time. Flocks of sheep were being picked off one by some great gray beast residents would spot here and there. All but May's, that is. Needless to say, it didn't take too long for people to suspect May's admirer of being a werewolf. Now, that's an interesting rumor to start for a variety of reasons, obviously. But when it comes to paranormal legends in general, it's easy to see how certain rumors spur stories. That weird old lady living by herself becomes a witch. The site of a violent death becomes haunted. However, archivist and curator at Duquesne, Thomas White, explains that the leap from weirdo to werewolf wasn't that big back then. Like many things in the country, werewolf legends were imported to the United States via the immigrants that settled here long before the Revolutionary War. Says White, quote, "While shape-changers have existed in the legends of most cultures around the world, our modern conception of the werewolf emerged during the Middle Ages and early modern era. Similar to witches, werewolves are thought to have made a pact with the devil or became a werewolf because of magical means, or perhaps by being a terrible person." Continues he, quote, "It was during a time, especially after the Protestant Reformation, that theological ideas about the devil and what he could do were being refined. The idea of a man turning into a beast was viewed as a mockery of God's creation." The resurgence of the wolf population during this time, along with religious wars and the trials of those supposedly of paranormal persuasions, didn't exactly help the case for accused werewolves like May Stranger either. However, the staring man's fate wasn't dealt with by an angry mob or by the end of a rope, like a lot of werewolf stories tend to do. Fed up with their sheep getting treated like a buffet, people in the area began to keep rifles at the ready in order to shoot the wolf dead. One shooter was successful. To his surprise, after the man followed the trail of blood the wolf left behind, he found the body of none other than the stranger sprawled on the ground, a bullet hole in his heart. The place where the stranger died is still referred to as Die Wolfman's Grove, the Wolfman's Grave. Some swear they've seen other wolves drop by to pay their respects over the years. Others have spotted the old man's ghost, sitting silently right where he used to watch May tend to her sheep. But unlike other legends like the Pittsburgh Green Man or the Witch of Monongahela, the origin of this one is hard to pinpoint. There are many May and Elizabeth Pauls buried around the state that were around during the time that the legend took place, but linking viable candidates as being the center of the story is a difficult task due to the scantness of records and reliable information. Concludes White, quote, "We will never know what happened with May Paul and the man/werewolf. Certainly many people believe there was something to the story at the time, and something unusual definitely happened. Most legends have some kernel of truth or some event that spawned them. Sometimes you can figure out what that is. Sometimes you can only guess." That ends the tale of the Northumberland County werewolf. If you liked this story, be sure to read it in full on PennLive and to sign up for the Paranormal PA newsletter for even more creepy tales coming out of Pennsylvania. Be sure to also please rate this podcast wherever you listen to it. Thank you in advance, and thank you for listening. I'm Claudia Dimuro, and I'll see you next time for some more Paranormal PA. Today in PA is brought to you by Renewal by Anderson of Central Pennsylvania. Buy one window or door and get another at 40% off and $250 off your project too. That's at zero money down, zero payments, and zero interest for a year. Spooky good. Drop by renewalbyanderson.com for additional details. Offer ends at the end of the month.